Have you ever wondered why some people command respect the moment they enter a room, without saying a single word, without demanding attention, without trying to prove themselves? They carry themselves with a quiet strength that others instinctively recognize and honor. Meanwhile, others chase recognition, speak loudly about their achievements, demand to be heard, yet find themselves overlooked, dismissed, or forgotten as soon as they leave. What separates these two kinds of people? What invisible quality makes one person naturally magnetic, while another remains invisible despite all their efforts? The ancient sage Confucius understood this mystery over 2,000 years ago. He observed that true respect is never taken by force, never demanded through clever words, and never earned through wealth or position alone. Respect, he taught, flows naturally toward those who have cultivated something far more precious than external accomplishments. It flows toward those who have learned to govern themselves with the same care that a wise ruler governs his kingdom. You see, most people approach respect backward. They believe that if they can just achieve enough, speak confidently enough, or appear strong enough, others will naturally look up to them. But this is like trying to capture sunlight with your bare hands. The harder you grasp, the more it slips away. Confucius knew that respect is not something you chase. It is something that emerges from within, like a spring that bubbles up from deep underground, pure and constant, regardless of the weather above. The master said that a person of true virtue does not need to announce their goodness, for it radiates from their every action. They do not need to demand respect, for their character commands it naturally. When such a person speaks, others listen, not because they must, but because wisdom flows from their words like clear water from a mountain stream. When they remain silent, their presence itself teaches. This is the power that comes not from trying to control others, but from first learning to master oneself. Think of a farmer tending his fields. He does not shout at the crops to grow faster, nor does he boast about his harvest before the season arrives. Instead, he works quietly, day after day, preparing the soil, planting at the right time, watering with patience, trusting in the natural order of things. His respect comes not from his words about farming, but from the abundance of his harvest. His neighbors seek his counsel, not because he proclaims himself an expert, but because his fields speak for themselves. In the same way, those who earn genuine respect understand that character is like fertile soil. It must be cultivated daily, tended with care, enriched through right action and proper conduct. You cannot fake this foundation any more than you can paint rocks and call them fertile ground. Others sense authenticity the way plants sense sunlight. They are naturally drawn to what is real and lasting, while turning away from what is artificial and temporary. Confucius taught that the superior person seeks to perfect their virtue, while the inferior person seeks only to perfect their reputation. This difference runs deeper than most people realize. When you focus on virtue, your actions naturally align with what is right and good. When others observe this consistency between your words and deeds, between your promises and your follow-through, between your public face and your private conduct, they cannot help but respect you. This respect grows slowly but roots deeply, like an ancient tree that weathers every storm. But when you focus only on reputation, you become like an actor playing a role. You say what you think others want to hear. You behave as you think others expect you to behave. You constantly adjust your mask to fit each audience. This requires enormous energy and creates enormous anxiety, because you are always one mistake away from being exposed. Others sense this performance, even if they cannot name what feels false about it. They may applaud your show, but they do not truly respect the performer behind the mask. The path to genuine respect begins with a simple but profound recognition. You must understand that true strength lies not in never falling, but in how gracefully you rise when you do fall. Not in having no weaknesses, but in acknowledging them with honesty and working to improve them with dedication. Not in being perfect, but in being perfectly committed to becoming better than you were yesterday. When you stop trying to appear impressive and start focusing on actually becoming worthy of respect, something remarkable happens. You begin to care less about what others think of you and more about what you think of yourself. You start measuring your worth not by the applause you receive, but by the integrity you maintain. You find peace not in external validation, but in the quiet satisfaction of living according to your deepest principles. This transformation does not happen overnight, like the sudden blooming of a flower. It unfolds gradually, like the slow turning of seasons, each day building upon the last. And as it unfolds, others begin to notice something different about you. They may not be able to name what has changed, but they feel drawn to your presence, comforted by your steadiness, inspired by your quiet confidence. They feel your presence like a gentle breeze on a still day, noticeable not because it demands attention, but because it brings relief from the heat of their own restless striving. This is the beginning of true influence, the kind that moves hearts without raising voices, that guides actions without issuing commands. Confucius observed that when a ruler governs by moral example rather than by force, the people naturally follow his lead like rivers flowing toward the sea. They do so not from fear of punishment, but from recognition of what is right and good. In the way, when you cultivate virtue within yourself, others are drawn to follow your example, not because you have compelled them, but because they recognize in you something their own hearts long to become. Consider the difference between a tyrant and a wise king. The tyrant rules through intimidation, surrounding himself with displays of power, demanding obedience through threats and punishments. His subjects may bow in his presence, but they curse his name in private and celebrate his downfall. His reign is built on sand, always one rebellion away from collapse. The wise king, however, rules first by ruling himself. He demonstrates justice in his decisions, shows mercy in his judgments, lives simply despite his wealth, and treats the lowest servant with the same courtesy he shows the highest noble. Such a king does not need guards to protect him from his people, for they see in him a father rather than an oppressor. His reign endures not because he has crushed all opposition, but because he has won the willing loyalty of hearts. When he speaks, people listen, because they have learned to trust his wisdom. When he remains silent, they wait patiently, because they know his words. When they come, will be worth hearing. You possess this same choice in your daily life. You can rule your household, your workplace, your community like a tyrant, demanding respect through position or volume or manipulation. You can surround yourself with the external trappings of authority and wonder why others comply with your wishes, but do not truly honor you. Or you can choose the harder, but infinitely more rewarding path of the wise ruler, beginning your reign in the only territory that truly belongs to you, your own heart and conduct. The master taught that he who conquers others may be strong, but he who conquers himself is truly mighty. This conquest is not a violent overtaking, like an army storming a fortress. It is more like a gardener patiently training a wild vine to grow along a trellis, guiding natural growth into beautiful form through gentle but persistent care. Day by day, you shape your responses to disappointment, your reactions to criticism, your behavior when no one is watching, your thoughts when anger or envy arise. This internal work requires no audience, seeks no applause, expects no immediate reward. yet it transforms you in ways that cannot be hidden. When you have learned to govern your temper, others feel safe in your presence. When you have mastered your tongue, your words carry weight, because they are chosen carefully rather than scattered carelessly. When you have disciplined your desires, you become content with what you have, rather than always grasping for more. And this contentment radiates outward like warmth from a well-tended fire. People respect those who have what they themselves desperately want, but cannot seem to attain. Inner peace, genuine confidence, the ability to remain steady when storms rage around them. They may not understand how you have achieved this stability, but they recognize its value instinctively, the way a traveler recognizes shelter when caught in a downpour. The path to such steadiness begins with understanding the proper order of things. A son must learn to honor his parents before he can properly lead his own family. A student must master basic principles before attempting advanced teachings. A person must learn to keep faith with small commitments before others will trust them with great responsibilities. This is not arbitrary tradition, but natural law, as reliable as the sequence of seasons or the course of stars across the night sky. When you attempt to skip these foundations, to demand respect without first earning it through right conduct, you build your reputation on unstable ground. Others may be impressed temporarily by your boldness or ambition, but when difficulties arise, they will look elsewhere for guidance because they sense that your confidence lacks deep roots. The wise person understands that respect is like a harvest. It cannot be rushed, cannot be faked, cannot be stolen. It grows naturally from seeds of virtue planted in the soil of daily practice, watered by consistency and ripened by time. Those who try to manufacture respect through clever strategies or forceful demands are like farmers who paint their barren fields green and wonder why no one wants to buy their imaginary crops. But those who tend their character with the same devotion that a master craftsman tends his work find that respect flows toward them as naturally as water flows downhill. They do not need to announce their wisdom because their decisions demonstrate it. They do not need to proclaim their strength because their composure reveals it. They do not need to demand loyalty because their faithfulness inspires it, is it. This transformation reveals itself in the smallest moments, in ways so subtle that even you may not notice them at first. When someone speaks harshly to you, instead of responding with equal heat, you pause and consider their burden rather than your wounded pride. When faced with a choice between personal gain and righteous action, you find yourself naturally choosing the path that honors virtue over advantage. When others around you lose their composure in times of difficulty, you remain centered, not from coldness, but from a deep well of inner strength that no external storm can disturb. These moments accumulate like morning dew gathering on grass, each droplet small but together, creating something that nourishes growth. Others begin to seek your counsel, not because you have proclaimed yourself wise, but because your responses reveal understanding that goes beyond mere cleverness. They bring their troubles to you not because you promise easy solutions, but because your presence itself brings clarity to confusion, calm to chaos. The Master's wisdom remains as true today as it was 25 centuries ago. Respect cannot be seized or demanded, only earned through the patient cultivation of virtue. Begin today with small acts of righteousness, gentle words, and honest conduct. Tend your character like a careful gardener, and watch as others naturally turn toward the light of your example.